And I just turned around and I hauled ass out of there. I was done. I wasn't dealing with that.
The hypocrisy of the cult is one of the things that turned me away the quickest.
When I turned my headlights on, it turned and looked at us, and one of the things I remember the most were the eyes were glowing red.
I see an orb of light. It is just circling these steps like it is waiting for me.
And he begins to tell them that he saw a UFO. They're basically like, what are you talking about? That's 7 foot up on a tree, peeking around it, and that's where I saw the top of the muzzle, nose, and the eyes. As soon as I made eye contact with this thing, it felt like death.
Welcome back to Tinfoil Tales. I'm your host, Brandon. Tonight we are joined by several guests. First is Angel. As I say, you've also got two gentlemen with you, Timmy and Dwayne. Thanks for coming on here tonight and joining with me. Before we get into it, though, would you guys like to let the audience know a little bit about yourself?
My name's Timmy. I'm one of the co-founders of Backwoods Kentucky Ghost Hunters, along with my wife, Grace Kennison, or Angel Kennison. And we have a group here in Owensboro, Kentucky. We have a haunted location that we rent out and stuff at 309 Hill Avenue. We have people coming all the time. Grace has been a paranormal investigator since 2009. Me around 2010 or so.
And Dwayne.
Oh,
I've been doing it forever. I've been doing it
2008 then.
Well, with y'all, yeah, I've been with y'all several years now.
What got you guys into the whole paranormal aspect?
Actually, I started doing it with us, and then I got him going into it. Me and a neighbor used to do it together.
Was there something that got you interested in the whole phenomena?
Yeah, for me, I seen some stuff, and then I was curious to see what else was out there. So that's basically with me.
Yeah, that's same here. It's just early age, having what I thought was experiences and stuff, and then I was just kind of curious on what really was out there, what's afterwards, if there is.
Right. I feel like someone always usually has some sort of an experience or something that piques their brain into wanting to look into further into these type of topics, these type of activity. It's for me personally, it's I try and remain skeptical a lot of the time. So I don't necessarily go out and look for this type of stuff, but I know a lot of people that do. So from the people that I've talked to, there's always been usually something that sets the whole situation up for them. Is there anything from the stuff that you guys have experienced you'd like to share?
What?
Well, I know in Tell City we used to investigate a hospital several times, and every time we went, we always got something from there, quite a bit. And I don't know, it's just a lot of times you go places and you don't get stuff, but that's part of it. But it's fascinating. I mean, I try to look at it as like with the orbs and stuff, it could be dust and all that, but sometimes you can't explain some of the stuff it does or how it reacts to things. And,
Right. No, I understand. What about the rest of you guys?
Up here, I guess we moved here since be 3 years now.
3 years in July.
And when we moved in here, we didn't know it was haunted at the time, but as soon as we came here, things start happening. And so we have a lot of experiences here. One of them is David, and he, does a lot of stuff up here, and a lot of people come and see him and talk to him and try to get his story.
Now, you said his name's David. How did you guys come across, how did you figure out what his name was?
We have a lady that her mom and her brother used to do business with him, and he owned a jewelry store here. And he was 31 when he went off. First, he went missing. He was gone for several years, and there's newspaper clippings. He went off to Lexington, and then he came back, and he was here for a little while, and then he went off with some jewels, and then he was gone. I guess a couple days.
Yeah.
And he was down in Bowling Green, and someone they say he either shot himself or someone shot him, which we've asked him, and he said someone else done it. His jewelry store was here, and he was 31 when he passed away, and I have all the newspaper clippings.
What year did you say this happened?
Oh, let me go see. I got all the newspaper clippings.
Yeah, I was just curious to see.
We've also asked several times, like, who we were talking to and stuff, and quite often on the voice box it comes back David.
I bought a spirit box myself here recently, and I haven't really used it very much. I've tried it out over the weekend because we were out filming some stuff for the documentary I'm doing, but that is we didn't get anything on that.
Now they usually, I noticed, like when I had gotten mine, that at first I wasn't getting anything, but the more I used it, it seems like it starts doing better. You start getting things from it. The more, I guess, you get used to the different knobs on it and stuff, and how to work it.
Right.
Because it took me a little while to kind of figure out, where to put the knobs, how to set it to where I'm kind of getting some answers to it. Because sometimes it'd be nothing but static.
Mm-hmm.
It was February of 1978.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically
35, 36 years.
47 years.
47 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of the ladies who come down here, she does the library, and she went and she printed all this off for us from different newspapers and this, that, and the other. And it's just
Most of them were in the Metro Inquirer. Some of them were in the Lexington Herald.
Lexington Herald. It said jewelry returns to Owensboro,
and he was 31 when he passed away in Nashville.
Yes.
Is there any other spirits or anything else that you guys have come across in this area?
Well, here recently we have got a little girl that has been frequently around. We've got her on the portal box for 2 or 3 times. Every time we do it now, she comes through, and we post on our website, like when Grace and me, or me and Dwayne and Grace get stuff on the portal box. We put the video on there where people can hear it themselves. Like Grace put a doll down, an old 1920s doll, on the couch, and then she put the portal box down. And as soon as she puts it down, the girl says, "What is that?" So, it's just as plain as day in a girl's voice,
No, we don't have any newspaper clippings or anything to...
Yeah.
Right.
Not sure about that.
We don't know if they were just passerbyers or
we
what.
hear a woman a lot, which we don't have any documentations on it, but we picked up on her.
The only one we really know about is the jewelry store guy, and we talked to people who used to have... There was a woman and her daughter had a market here in the same place, and they got to where at nighttime they wouldn't come down. They wouldn't come down at nighttime at all. They said because it was just too eerie. During the day they were fine, but when it's time to go, if they forgot something, they wouldn't come back to the next day to the morning time. And we've heard stories, and we've talked to people who used to be here and stuff. So that's just what they told us. And me and Grace knew nothing about all this right here when we done the auction house here.
You kind of inherited not just the place, but whatever's in there too.
Do what?
It's almost like you inherited not
just... I thought it cut out.
No, I was say it's like you inherited the place and whatever was in there too. When you end up getting the place. So whatever.
It'll be 3 years. Be 3 years in July.
Yeah.
Is there any...
Our first experience, we were moving stuff out that people have left here, and me and Grace was moving a dresser out, and she seen the shadow figure, and the door closed in the room that we were in. So that was our very first experience here. Of course, being paranormal investigators, you think yourself, man, that's all right.
Mm-hmm. What about before you guys moved in? You said you had some experiences that kind of led you down this pathway. What was some of those?
Mine was the house that we used to live in.
Yeah.
For me, when I was little, I remember my papa came to see me, and this is before I even knew that he had passed away. And a little bit later, my brother came out and told me my mom wanted to talk to us inside. And then when we went in, it was funny because I just saw him. It was him. I mean, I didn't even think of it being a spirit. He looked solid to me. And then when we went in, my mom told me that he had passed away in the hospital. He had died of cancer. They kind of kept it from us kids at first. So, I mean, I think that was kind of my first experience of it. But I mean, as far as getting into it, I guess I just always kind of wondered, was that just a kid's imagination that it happened, or did it really happen?
I've heard other people say similar things, like I believe it was someone's grandfather had passed away, if I remember right, and she had saw her grandfather, but it couldn't have been him because he had just passed away, but she didn't know that.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And that's pretty much what happened to me. And even when I saw him, I mean, because we lived quite a ways away from each other, it didn't strike me as funny or anything that he was there, and he was telling me everything was okay.
I feel like that is something that does seem to happen for a lot of people, and I think that is, again, I'm no expert. I don't know anything, but in my opinion, I feel like that is whoever it is, it's their way of moving on, but they're letting the other people know that they're okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, you said you grew up in a haunted house. What was some of the stuff that was going on there?
Well, I didn't grow up in a haunted. Well, I mean, I did grow up in the house, but I didn't know things started happening. So I was already married, and I moved back into the same house, and then just weird crap would happen there. And then that's how I got into it. Me and a neighbor was like, he was like, "Well, take a picture at night when you think something's going on." And I'm like, "No." And finally I did, and we caught something, and then I was scared after that. And then I was like, "Okay, I can't be like that." So then that's when me and her started going out and doing things. And then I drug him into it. He wasn't interested in it at first, but he went along anyway. And he's never experienced anything until this year. He don't normally hear things, see things, or anything.
I feel like that doesn't happen for a lot of people. If you go out looking for the stuff, usually you don't find it, but it's the stuff that you're not looking for is when you actually notice it. So
Yeah.
And until you actually have an experience, I think it's hard for people to have that experience or at least recognize them. Now,
Well, he started having his experience after he died twice.
You say he died.
Back in January.
Do you mind if I ask what happened?
We really don't know what happened other than he had to get a pacemaker. They don't really have no explanation. He wasn't even sick. And now he sees things, hears things.
And now I'm just like Grace.
I don't know how to correlate all that.
But like I said, I went out for 5 minutes at a time, or twice. My heart quit beating. I flatlined for 5 minutes at a time. Then they put a pacemaker in me, and I haven't done it since. And
but now he sees things and hears things he never heard before.
Yeah.
He hears things I don't hear.
Maybe I'm just more open now, I guess, or they made me more open.
I feel like maybe when people, and it's a cliche saying, but like when you touch the veil or if you cross over just for a little bit, it opens you up more.
Yes.
To the other side.
Yes, I believe it. Because I didn't really, honestly, my two experiences I had, one of them was in a graveyard, and I had a flashlight on a tombstone, and I was asking questions, and I told it to turn the light on the tombstone, and something hit my back pocket and turned the light on that I had in my back pocket instead of the tombstone light. That was that, and we went to a graveyard, and I got a picture of the miner that haunts the cemetery. And that was my two experiences for 10 years, 12 years, a lot.
Oh, 2010.
Now, hell, I hear shit now and everything else.
Yeah, that's something that I've heard from multiple people, that it's like they've had near-death experiences, and it makes them more
Yes.
susceptible towards experiencing other things.
Yes. Well, I believe it. I'm a firm believer in it. Because I sure did. Matter of fact, I was talking to some other paranormal guy, and he told me the same thing. He had a heart attack, right?
Yeah.
He had a heart attack. He said, boy, now I hear things, and I see shadow figures now, and I can sense things. I said, yes, I know what you mean. I said, ever since the pacemaker, I see everything that Grace sees. So Grace is a sensitive. She knows a lot of stuff. She has dreams about things that's going to happen, and we can walk around, and she can tell me what she senses in a room and stuff like that. Now, I'm not as farther along as that is, but a starter of what she is.
You're just beginning your journey.
I'm just beginning. That's right. I just got my wings.
Yeah. I will say, and this is not to sound like a warning or anything, but sometimes once you start getting these experiences, they don't always turn out to be the best. Like once
No,
they don't.
you can have some stuff that come through that are not the greatest of spirits that want to come through, not the greatest of energies, and it does open you up for even some dark stuff. So just always make sure when you're doing investigations or whatever, from what I've been told by other people, is to always make sure you have some sort of protection for yourself.
Yes.
Like I know a lot of groups will actually do like a prayer, tell them thank you, for speaking with us, but they need to stay where they're at, and when the group is leaving, and not to follow them home.
Yeah.
You'll find several groups will usually do a prayer at the end to close the door, I guess you could call it.
Yeah. I think there's other podcasters that I know that have, I don't want to call it a ritual, but they do like almost like a prayer, or they say something or whatever, because they believe when you even talk about this type of stuff, it opens you up. Even like just doing like this conversation we're having now, sometimes speaking about stuff like that is almost opening a doorway for other things. And I don't know if I necessarily believe in all that, but it is something that I always kind of keep in the back of my mind. That's kind of why I don't do I moved out of my house in order to do this show, and I have my own little studio now that's not attached to my house because I was having some weird stuff going at my house, and I thought maybe this show was part of the reason why there was weirder things going on. So I, as a precaution, get it out of there.
Yeah,
that's right. I mean, honestly, that's the truth about it. Yeah. At our house we have antiques and pictures, canes. And we have stuff going on at our own house that I built 22 years ago. And I think it's a lot of times it's the stuff inside the house that makes the difference.
32 years ago.
32 years ago.
Yeah, not 22, 32 years.
Yeah, it's like some people won't use a Ouija board at all, and then there's some they won't use it in their house.
Yeah,
that they'll have to do it like outside or somewhere else, but they're afraid they're opening the door, and then that can cause problems in the house.
There are a lot of things that I would not recommend doing, and the Ouija board is one of those superstitious things that I won't mess with. But
yeah,
when I got this spirit box, and I've always been told by people to never do any sort of like paranormal investigating of where you live at. And when I got the spirit box, I turned it on just to make sure it was working.
Mm-hmm.
And my son had asked me what it was, and I tried to explain to him. He's like, is that the thing that talks? I said, yes, and I turned it on, and my wife had already warned me not to do anything in the house because she's very, very, doesn't want anything to do with any of this stuff. And
yes,
sounds like my girlfriend.
I said, is there anything out there? And it was going, as it was scanning, and then it goes, it sounded like a lady's voice. It goes, hello. And I instantly just turned it off. I was like, well, it's working. But
yeah, that's honestly, that's true. I mean, even a spirit box and honestly, a Ouija board, same thing.
Yeah. That is
communication. You're
inviting something at that point.
Yes.
And that is.
I usually pack my spirit box with me.
So
Just in case.
I don't have it with me tonight.
I said, I've got.
We have a group coming here tomorrow, so I take my stuff home.
Yeah, I've got my stuff all out here in my studio, so I don't even keep it in the house. So it all.
I pack mine around normally.
I keep everything detached from where I live. That way, any sort of bad juju or any type of negativity or anything like that, it's literally contained out to where it's at out here. And I've got little protective symbols and other things around this place to try and. I feel like I'm a paranoid lunatic sometimes when I do stuff like that, but for me, it's
salt in the corners over the doorway.
The first time we went out, we went with my cousin, and we went out and I had these crosses and this stuff, and he's like, "You're never going to find anything with all this stuff you're packing." So then I quit.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, sometimes sometimes you might go a little overboard, but
that's what he said. So I quit that.
That's like going fishing and not use no bait.
Right. We're working on a documentary, me and a couple of other people, and we were out this past weekend, and I'd had some of this stuff, and I'd mentioned this earlier, like we weren't picking anything up on the spirit box, but I was going out there with these meters and everything, and the area that we were at is an old battleground from back in 1812, from when the Army came through and wiped out a bunch of the Native Americans that lived around here. So we were out there, and I was asking questions. I was trying to get readings and everything, and everyone says this is one of the most highest areas of paranormal activity, and I didn't get a single thing. So it's a little discouraging because you always hear about people coming out and saying that they always experience this stuff. I was like, in the time I go out there, we don't experience anything.
Right.
So, but
we've been places and get stuff, and then we've gone back thinking, oh, well, we're going to get a bunch of stuff and get nothing.
Yeah,
that is it is fishing to an extent.
That's exactly right.
We drove 10 hours one time, spent the whole weekend, and got good stuff, scary stuff, but then turn around and go back, 2 years later, and get absolutely nothing.
It's just part of the whole thing. It's you never know what's going to happen. You never know what you're going to get. I've had people send me EVPs. And I've listened to it, and it's some creepy shit that you don't even know what it could be. And then you hear they're in I had someone send me something from an old hospital, and you hear a little girl's voice. And then I've had someone recently send me something, and you hear her nephew plain as day, and he'd recently passed away.
Yes.
So
I had my aunt on recording up here, and she's passed away. Oh, what, 4 or 5 years ago?
4 or 5 years ago.
And I got her singing up here on the recorder, on the camera recorder.
We get a lot of ours by the camera, and we do the EVPs too.
Right.
But like during the auction and stuff, we have cameras running, and people walk by and they'll move their head, and we'll ask them, "Hey, what'd you hear?" We'll go back and listen to the camera. We hear them, they'll say, "Hello," "Hey, hi," or, stuff like that, just out of the blue. And we get a lot of ours like that right there.
And we got one guy won't come back.
Yeah.
You have an experience.
Yeah, the commode flush, and he hasn't been back since.
I have a couple of cameras set up out here for security, and the one that's inside that's on my desk that faces like the entry, it will randomly go off, and it sends me notifications to my phone so I can see it live, and it also records anytime there's movement. And there's been a few times it records movement. And one time was a shadow moving across the desk, and I've never been able to figure out what that was. And then you could also see something on the wall start to move. I thought it may have been the air conditioning, but it was just random that it only happened once, and that air had been running all summer. So why now did it trigger it? And then just recently, it went off in the middle of the night and said that there was a package being delivered.
Oh,
and I didn't have anything being delivered in the middle of the night, but it said there was a package, and I thought that was strange. I had a recording and a notification on my phone.
Well, sometimes a package will come up and be a person.
Yeah. It always goes off when it sees me, too. It'll send me a warning that there's someone in the area. I was like, well, it's me.
Yeah.
I know I'm in here. Thanks for letting me know.
We'll be at home watching TV, and the camera system here will kick on and saying there's a package or something, and, of course, no one's here.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's
some of the best evidence.
It always freaks me out.
Nobody's here.
Mm-hmm.
I always hope I'm going to catch something very interesting, but other than the shadow, I've never been able to pick anything up on these cameras, but I hold out hope.
What kind of cameras do you have?
To be 100% honest, these are just the cheaper Roku security camera systems.
Yeah.
But
That's what I got, the square
Yep.
ones. Yeah, they work really good. We've had $1,000 systems and not great. These are great.
I had a couple other ones that were wired, and when I made this studio, I didn't want to have to try and wire them the way I did. So these are set up differently, and they work. So I have no complaints, and I pay for the subscription, so
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
it's worth it. Just
I think we've got like 15 cameras up here. I think 15 or 16,
Yeah.
something like that.
yeah. So it's always good to have it, and then just because of it's not that I don't. For me, it's more for security purposes, so I know what's going on around my area. But for me, I'm also thinking, like, I hope I catch something on these cameras. Hope something walks by.
That's right.
That's what we have ours for.
I randomly get like a bunny rabbit or something hopping by or some other things, but it's I think maybe one day I'll catch something cool.
There you go. Like up here when we moved in, the house is like a separate part from the pole barn. It's all under. It's two separate roofs. Anyway, we have a hallway, and to keep the auction people out of our where they do investigations stuff like that, I put a door in, and to keep separate, we're right there by the bathrooms, and that door right there where we assume where there never was a door there before, well, the door just opens up. You hear 2 clicks, and the door open up.
I've wondered before. Now, there's different types of hauntings, I think. You have your residual hauntings where that's kind of like it's the timestamp where things are just repeating itself over and over. But then you have your intelligent hauntings, and I think that's where you start to get some sort of activity to where they answer the questions because they know what you're saying.
Yeah. Yes.
They open things, which I think being able to interact with stuff and move things and open things, to me, that seems more what people... I guess I don't know where it splits off at, but you hear about poltergeists, and that's when they're like, "Oh, there's bad things happen. Things are being thrown around. Things are being not."
Yeah,
that's when things start getting moved around, broken. Stuff
when you
like
have a
that.
tornado inside your house, that's a little rough.
But if it's
We've had a candlestick move here before, but I mean we don't have anything bad going on here.
When I was younger, I don't honestly think I've said anything on this show before, but when I was younger, I was at a friend's house. And I didn't actually, I seen it happen, but I don't know exactly how it happened. But there was a ketchup bottle on the table that flew off the table. And I don't know if maybe just something in the house caused it to fall off. But it was freaky. Like, they claimed the house was haunted. And then that happened. So it's like, I don't really know. I just remember that event happening. So
it's hard to explain.
Yeah, did someone bump the table? I don't remember anyone walking by it. I don't know how it fell off the table. I can't say it's paranormal, but I just know it fell off the table. But when you hear them talk about how the house was haunted, it adds some credence to it. So it's like, is that
yeah?
But I've had other weird stuff that's gone on in my home personally that I'm not going to bring up because I've talked about it enough. But there's always weird things going on, and I'm always the type of person that wants to try and rule things out first.
Yeah,
that's what we do.
It's the stuff that you can't rule out that really gets to you.
Yeah. We try to debunk everything. If something happens up here, we're always trying to figure out what could cause it, what would do it, and normally, sometimes we can't. There has been times we have figured it out.
But that door, we had camera on both sides. One on one side, one on the other. You hear 2 clicks, and then the door opens. And Grace has asked before, David, can you open the door? My hands are full, and I'm coming through there. And at times, it's just opened up after Grace said it. And Dwayne said one time, he said, you can open the door. That's pretty impressive. Now, if you could shut the door, that would really be good.
And then later on that night, wasn't it? It slammed.
Later on that night, it slammed shut.
We've got it on video.
Never done that before. Never
No.
slammed shut.
That's the first time and only.
So it's definitely something
I don't know if it just
that's.
is this proving itself that he can do it, or
I think it's.
Which we talk to David every time we come up here. We're like, "How are you doing, David?" And everybody up here knows about David, and everybody talks to him. Even our customers come talk to him.
yes,
Now, he seems to like people who's never been here before. He seems to almost like he likes meeting people. But usually when they're here for the first time, especially if they're investigating, they're going to get stuff. David lets them know. He's never done anything bad to anybody. But I could see with some people, something happens and then they get scared. But it's not that they did anything wrong. It's just they get scared because something happened.
I've always thought it was funny that people that want to go out and investigate this end up getting scared. And even the people like on TV, you get your Zach Bagans and everything from Ghost Adventures.
yes,
And then when something happens and the reaction they get and they get freaked out and everything, it's like,
Yeah.
you literally do this for a living at this point.
I've done that before.
Yeah, I still get excited when something happens. I mean, like nothing's ever happened before or something.
Yeah.
It just your adrenaline gets pumping. You get excited.
It's just the over being, maybe it's just me and the way I'm wired, but like if I'm going to go out and do something like this, and I'm not going to get scared by it if I'm out looking for it, unless a brick comes flying at my head and I'm like, all right, that's a little, you're trying to kill me at this point. But
Yeah, I've done it before when we first started. We were in the graveyard, and I was filming. I was supposed to be filming him doing his investigation, and then I felt like something was about to attack me, so I went to the car. And my mom was like, "Why'd you go to the car for? I can get you in the car." And I was like, "Okay." So that was the last time I ever got scared.
yeah, I've went out on a couple different investigations with people before, and it kind of turned me off just because everything was paranormal. And I'm the type of person, like I said earlier, that wants to
yes,
not say everything's paranormal until you really know. And
yes.
Exactly.
so
That does make a difference. People say, "Well, this," and that's why I told Grace, like up here, right? If they say, "Well, we went to places," they say, "Well, that door opened right there," or "You can get a shadow figure down here." Well, in ours, we have a video showing what happened. We're showing what voices we get and stuff like that, other than hearsay. And I would told Grace, that's all, to me, in my mind, that's always the best.
did you say earlier that you have a group or a website or wherever you post up your stuff?
Yes.
What was it called?
Yep. It's called Backwoods Kentucky Ghost Hunters.
Okay.
It's on Facebook.
But Grace puts it on Facebook, and like I said, on her private, and she does on Backwoods Kentucky Ghost Hunters. And we'll get like an EVP or the camera catch something, and Grace will put on her. This is what we think it says. We're not going to say, but what do y'all hear?
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. There's a difference what people hear.
Yeah, everyone's listening to the same thing, but 2 or 3 people's hearing it's saying something different.
It is interesting that it does happen that way, because I know of other people that do the same situations. They will not say what they think they hear, but they'll ask, "Did you hear anything?" And then you will get different answers from different people because of the way that they interpret stuff.
And the funny thing is, you can go back and listen to it again. Then you hear it too.
Yeah.
Selective.
It's power of suggestion.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So you hear 3 or 4 different things in one word.
It's very interesting, and I've often wondered, I don't know the process of how things are able to say stuff that we can't hear, but it's on a recording and we can hear it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My brain, I struggle with understanding how it's capable because it's very electronic based. So again, electricity, which is basically what we all have our own electrical energy anyways, but it's like it's implemented into this recording, but we can't hear it ourselves. Now I have.
Well, it's just like you can look into a room, you don't see nothing in there, but you take a picture of it anyway, and then you see some type of image in the picture, but yet you stood there and you didn't see nothing.
Right.
The recording's the same way. You don't hear it, but yet the recording picked up a voice. And it's funny how all that works like that. And sometimes you do see an image,
There are,
and you actually see it like walking down the hallway or something.
I have seen a very small 18-inch shadow running down my hallway a little over a year ago, and I gave chase to it. It ran into my daughter's room, and I ran into her room as she was sleeping in her bed. I don't know where the little shadow went, but if I found it, I was going to kick it across the room. But just because the stuff that's been here is not the greatest of things, and that is the one time that I've actually physically seen something. Like we've had other things happen, but nothing that I actually was able to see with my own eyes. So what is 18 inches tall that runs on two legs? I have no idea. It doesn't, like, even if it's a spirit, it's very small. It's less than 2 feet tall running down the hallway. I don't know how to describe it other than a little.
It's something that's not natural.
Right.
It's,
very strange. And everything that's always ever happened here always seems to happen in this back area of our house, which is where my daughter's bedroom is. And all the weird activity has always been centered in her bedroom ever since we've moved in. So.
Has she ever said anything about her room? Does she ever see anything, or?
There is a whole lot to unpack with that. And, I can talk to you off air about it. I don't want to bore the audience with it because they've all heard it before. But there's been a lot that she deals with and we've dealt with that goes on here. But is there anything else that you guys would like to discuss?
So you said you're doing a book, right?
I'm working on filming a documentary about a lot of the weird stuff that goes on in my hometown. We have a lot of weird cryptid stuff. We've had a lot of weird paranormal stuff, a lot of UFO stuff, and I've figured out that it all is centralized around this very specific geographic area from where all these reports are. And I've got things mapped out, and I've started to notice patterns, and there's just a lot of weird high strangeness going on in this small little community.
Funny you say that. Me and Grace used to go to a place that was about 45 minutes from where we live at. And we would call it Spook Hill.
Well, that's what they called it.
Yeah, but it was so crazy. They said the town got so haunted, people just packed up and left all their shit in there.
It's called Alsey, Kentucky. It's what it's called.
Now, what side of Kentucky are you on?
We are in Owensboro, Kentucky.
Right past, where Evansville, Indiana is?
Yes, I do.
Okay, well then there's Henderson, Kentucky, and then we're next after Henderson.
Okay.
That's how I think it.
Pretty close.
But that we would go over there. We actually seen UFO sightings over there.
Okay.
It was so crazy. They had a cemetery up in that woods, and at times we go over it. Take 5 minutes to find it, and at times take 2 hours. Then a person in our group looking through infrared binoculars. And he said, well, there it is over there. He said, I see a priest against a tree pointing his finger that direction. And we walked right over in 2 minutes. We was in it. It was just crazy. But they said that was the Indian burial grounds right there. You see like the bow part of it.
Right, yeah.
And they said that's what caused a lot of that.
There is a lot of that around here, too. And I think that has a lot to do with the activity.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, every time we went there, it was something.
They had a lake, and they said, don't let darkness catch in that lake. And they said they've interviewed fishermen that stayed in the boat all night long until daybreak to get out.
Mm-hmm.
It was just crazy. You think to yourself, well, hell, I'm going to go see what that's about.
Right.
So we go over at dark, we're saying, hey, let's go up in it. And it was different.
We go every weekend.
Where they go at hot spots?
Yeah, hot spots.
We go every weekend.
There's always specific areas that are always told.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is, but I don't know. When you said hot spots, there's a lot of high energy areas, and there's always a lot of weird activity in these specific areas. And some of the areas that I've noticed are usually around water, and I think water is a conduit for the energy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sometimes they say like there's underground water that can cause it too, and stuff like that. That's where some of these spots come up.
Yeah, it's just not to spoil everything from my documentary, but I think a lot of the stuff that I'm investigating is literally based around all these river systems, because there's 3 different river systems that all come around here, and the rivers themselves actually make a triangle. But
Right.
That's interesting.
and
Yeah.
though if you go off and like you can connect the points and everything else, they kind of all run into each other, and it all kind of makes a triangle, and a lot of high strangeness in there. So I was like, I'm calling it the Mississinawa Triangle because literally it is a triangle. And I know it's
Yeah.
Yeah, it is funny how that shape seems to come up a lot.
right, but no, we've got a lot of interviews already recorded, and we've been out in the woods this past weekend, and I'm got a lot of actual investigation stuff that we need to get filmed, and then hopefully by the later this year we'll have it all ready to be released.
Well, that'd be good.
Please keep us informed on that. I'd like to check that out.
Do you do any Bigfoot hunting?
That is one of the things that we are looking for, because there has been
There you go.
Well, we've actually seen that over there also.
there are
We used to go there. We do that also.
I would say there's definitely a lot of stuff going on in the woods. We have had lots of
Yes,
reports
it is.
I've had people send me tracks that they found. I've heard
Yes.
stories from people that have actually saw a Bigfoot, and then
We actually have a track,
Yeah.
footprint.
we have a lot of weird cryptid encounters, not just Bigfoot. We've had people call them werewolves. I think it's Dogman. And then
Yeah.
Yeah.
we've had stuff that are humanoid, and we've had people that have reported seeing flying humans. Like
Hmm.
they have wings that they don't flap the wings; they just levitate
Oh.
off the ground
Yeah,
and
what's
fly.
the-
That's also
Mothman.
yeah, but
Yeah.
over the same area. Well, no, this is near Veneta Cemetery, so this is over before you get to Henderson. We were there one night, and there was a cornfield going to the graveyard, and they explained it. Me and the neighbor were in the van because she was older. Where they explained it as something out of Jeepers Creepers. Remember,
Yeah.
you could hear it,
You-
and
you're
but
right.
then it went up like about a corn. It was weird.
Yeah, there is a lot of weird stuff that goes on,
So I do believe that.
and it's not just isolated to where I live. And I think I don't want people to come off thinking that I'm just saying all this stuff happens here, but if people actually started to dig into their local areas, you would probably start to see the same sort of patterns that I did. Like,
Yes.
Well,
You'd be amazed.
around here, I haven't seen a lot of that. But if you could drive about 45 minutes from our house, you're guaranteed
Right.
you're going to see something there with UFOs, Bigfoot.
I feel like
Really active over there for that stuff.
there's specific areas that are very big hot spots, and for some reason I just happen to live in one. And like you said, 45 minutes from you, there's another one. So
Well, that's good.
Yes.
Yes.
I think the whole country, and I think the whole world in general, has these random spots, and what makes them special, I have no idea, but I think there's just something to it.
And I think the best information you find is people who are 75, 80, 90 years old that lived in the area.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best information.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you can get some of them to talk, because some of them like that, if they can't explain it, they don't want to talk about it.
There's still that stigma where no one wants to come forward, especially the older
Yeah.
generation, because back then it was taboo to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then you were labeled a crazy.
I think
Well,
people
that-
are still labeled that today, but
Yeah.
I try and help. That's the point of my show, is to try and at least give people the opportunity to talk about these type of things, because I know what it's like to experience stuff and never be able to talk about it. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but-
Yeah, because you don't, I mean, when something happens and you can't explain it, you think to yourself, why?
Yeah.
Or how is that possible?
Especially if you didn't get it recorded or something like that. You're like, man, I know if I tell people this happened, they're going to think I'm nuts.
Right.
You know, and I've got no proof to back it up. I know it happened, but, you know, are they going to believe it?
That's how I've always felt about stuff that happened with me, is I had no proof. The person that
Yeah.
also experienced it too didn't want to talk about it. So
Right.
then I didn't talk about it, because what's the point? No one's going to believe you. They're
Yeah.
going to say you're lying or you're crazy. So what's the point?
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So that's
That is where it works.
That is why I do what I do, though, to give people the opportunity to come on here and talk about what they experience, because it sucks not being able to do that.
Yep, it sure does.
Like I said, Grace, we'll be up here and we'll just be working and stuff like that, and stuff happens, and you think, well, that's not recorded on that, so we don't have to worry about that, you know. But I told Grace, I said, you know what? If it's still happening, if only me and you're up here, that's still good enough for me.
Yeah.
I found
Sometimes,
it's good that people would know that I do ghost hunting and stuff, like where I work at. When they experience something, they'll be quick to come to me and bring it to me and hey, what do you think about this? Because they know I search for it, so they're like, okay, he won't think I'm crazy if I tell him.
that
True.
is
Yeah.
that is what has been happening with me. Is randomly now I will get people reaching out to me, or I've had even family members bring stuff up, and I've been going to these events. I have events that I've been doing, like in-person stuff, so people will come up, talk to me in person, share some of the stuff that they've experienced or whatever. So
Right.
I just feel like what I'm doing, I hope, is helping other people. So
Yeah.
that is why I try and do what I do. Just to be honest, it's kind of selfish. It helps me with my own coping, and then I feel like it's helping other people
Right.
too. So
Well, I've had 3 people since Saturday last Saturday.
Yeah.
To come to me to tell me, like, why has this happened? Why is this happening? Was this him? Was this her? And I'm like, yeah. But 3 times it's within 2 days. 3
Yeah.
people called me.
it's once people, I think, actually find out that you're okay to talk to about certain things, some people may laugh, but there's always going to be those couple of people who be like, hey, I've had some weird stuff happen too.
Yeah, can you help me?
Yeah. And sometimes it's just that they know they're not alone, that they're not the only one that's experiencing this stuff.
Right. And just being able to talk to someone that can understand a little bit is beneficial for
Comforting.
them. Yes.
Yeah.
And non-judgmental.
Right. Well, we've been going on for almost an hour, so we can probably wrap this up here in a few minutes. But is there anything else?
Man, time flies.
It does. Is there anything else you would like to discuss before we do?
No, I don't guess. I mean,
We enjoyed ourselves.
yes.
We had a very good
Yeah,
time. Thank you very much.
If you'd like to be a guest on Tinfoil Tales, remember to send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com or go to tinfoiltales.com and go to the contact section. Make sure to follow me around on all the social medias. And just remember, truth comes at a cost. Are you willing to pay the price?
I heard a story late last night about something lurking along the wood line. Huge footprints, strange lights in the sky. They claim it's nothing, but I know they lie. It's easier to laugh in my face, but something about this makes me say, what if it's real? What if they knew? What if the answers are coming from you? Spinning stories, wasting my time, hearing voices, is it all in their minds? They can call me crazy, but I just want some proof. What if it's true? What if it's real? What if it's true? What if the world's not what we knew? Tinfoil tales pulling me in, a story that starts where the logic ends. What if it's real? What if it's true? The answers are waiting, they're waiting for you. They see a dog man walking, or maybe a mothman flies above the buried giants, hidden beneath the lies. They say it's just stories, it's all make-believe. Fairy tales for the things we can't perceive. They want to keep us blinded, they want to break our will. But I'm not buying it, I'm not swallowing another pill. Force-fed poison, the lies we're made to believe. What if the truth could set us free? Alien signals traveling through time, secret space programs erasing their minds. They call them crazy, but I just need some proof. What if it's true? What if it's real? it's true? What if the world's not what we knew? Tinfoil tales pulling me in, a story that starts where the logic ends. What if it's real? What if it's true? The answers are waiting, they're waiting for you. They laugh, they lie, we all could die, but the signs are there if you open your eyes. Aliens, cryptids, demons, ghosts, the Nephilim too. What if it's me? Or what if it's real? What if it's real? What if it's true? What if the world's not what we knew? Tinfoil tales pulling me in, a story that starts where the logic ends. What if it's real? What if it's true? The answers are waiting, they're waiting for you. It's all in our heads, it's all in our minds. These voices can't be silenced, the truth must rise. Tinfoil tales, it's pulling me through. What if it's real? What if it's true?